She started the year broken until her boss looked at her and said, "This year, you're mine." She started the year broken, no plans, no strength, just trying to get through each day. After a new year marked by loss, silence, and quiet heartbreak, she returns to work believing nothing will change. She expects routine, distance, another year of being invisible. Then, in an unexpected moment, a steady look, a room gone silent, her boss looks at her like he never has before and says something that changes everything. "This year, you're mine." What sounds like control feels like protection. What feels like authority reveals care. And what began as a broken year turns into a dangerous promise she can't ignore. Because sometimes when everything falls apart, one sentence is enough to change a life and make love rise from the ruins. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. You should have thought about your reputation before sending that. The words landed like a slap in the middle of the glass-walled conference room, sharp enough to silence the hum of the city beyond the windows. Lydia Hale stood frozen near the end of the long table, a paper cup of coffee cooling in her hand, the bitter smell rising as if to mock her. Every seat was filled, every eye was turned, not one face offered shelter. The speaker, Marianne Culver, head of communications and queen of polished smiles, tilted her chin with practiced pity. On the screen behind her, an email glowed in unforgiving white. Lydia recognized the subject line. She recognized her own name. She hadn't sent it. But in rooms like this, truth didn't always matter. Appearances did. Lydia's fingers tightened around the coffee cup. It trembled, just slightly, enough for her to notice and pray no one else did. She felt the heat seep into her skin, grounding her, keeping her upright. She reminded herself to breathe. In, out, dignity first, always. "I didn't send that message," Lydia said. Her voice came out steady, though her chest ached. "And I wouldn't write like that." A few people shifted. Someone coughed. Marianne smiled the way people do when they're done listening. Across the table, Caleb Ashford hadn't spoken. He sat at the head, shoulders squared, suit immaculate, hands folded as if carved there. His steel blue eyes were fixed on the screen, not on Lydia. Not yet. He looked calm. Too calm for a room buzzing with quiet judgment. Lydia wished, briefly, foolishly, that he'd look at her, not to rescue her, just to see her. The year had started like this, wrong-footed, off balance. She'd returned from New Year's break with no plans, no fire, just a quiet agreement with herself to survive the days. December had taken too much. Her mother's small apartment emptied into boxes. The last phone call that ended with silence. The silver locket tucked into her coat pocket because she didn't know where else to put it. The locket pressed against her palm now, cool through the fabric. Her mother's, plain, oval, nothing fancy. Inside, a faded photo of two people smiling at a beach that no longer existed. Family, dignity, love. Things that didn't vanish just because someone whispered. Caleb finally lifted his gaze. The room seemed to hold its breath. "Pause," he said, not loudly. He didn't need to be. The word alone stopped the murmurs forming at the edges. He looked at Marianne, then at the screen. Then, finally, at Lydia. It wasn't the look of a man assessing damage. It was the look of someone measuring truth. Lydia felt it like a hand at her back, steadying her spine. "We'll review the metadata," Caleb continued. "Until then, no conclusions." His eyes stayed on Lydia a beat longer than necessary. Not soft, not indulgent, certain. "This meeting is adjourned." Chairs scraped, the spell broke. Conversations burst into being as people stood gathering their things, their glances sliding toward Lydia and away again. She remained where she was, coffee forgotten, heart pounding, now that she could no longer hide it. Marianne brushed past her, perfume sharp. "I hope this clears up," she said, which sounded nothing like hope. When the room emptied, Lydia let out the breath she'd been holding. Her knees felt loose. She sat carefully, afraid of what might happen if she didn't. The coffee had gone lukewarm. She took a sip anyway. It tasted wrong, but it was something warm in a cold moment. Caleb approached without hurry. Up close, he smelled faintly of clean soap and winter air. Authority lived in the line of his shoulders, in the quiet way he occupied space. He stopped across from her, hands resting on the table. "You all right?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. Not, "Are you guilty?" Not, "Can you prove it?" Just that. "I am," she said, a pause. "I will be." He nodded once, as if that answered something he'd been wondering. "Take an early lunch. Clear your head." She hesitated. "There's work. I'll cover it," he said. Not a command. Not a decision. In the cafeteria downstairs, Lydia chose a corner table by the window. Soup, bread, water. Simple. The kind of meal her mother used to insist fixed more than people realized. She stirred the soup slowly, watching steam curl upward, feeling the tremor in her hands fade. A laugh floated nearby, 2 interns arguing gently over whose turn it was to refill the napkins. The normalcy of it all surprised her. The world hadn't ended. Not yet. Her phone buzzed. A message preview flashed from an unknown sender. "People are talking. Be careful." Her stomach tightened. She locked the screen and slipped the phone face down beside her bowl. The locket slid from her pocket onto the table with a soft clink. She touched it, thumb tracing its edge, grounding herself again. When she looked up, Caleb stood there with a tray. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the empty chair. She nodded, too surprised to speak. He set down a sandwich and coffee, black. For a moment, they ate in silence. It wasn't awkward. It was unexpected. "Safe. They'll find the truth," he said finally. Gossip runs faster than facts, but it trips over itself. A corner of her mouth lifted despite everything. "That's almost funny." "Almost," he agreed. She glanced at him, really glanced this time. The calm wasn't indifference. It was control, chosen. Not forced. And beneath it, something watchful. He noticed her looking and didn't look away. The moment stretched. Too long, too quiet. Caleb set his coffee down. His voice dropped, meant only for her. "This year," he said, eyes steady, the cafeteria noise fading around them. "You're mine." Not possession. Not threat. Promise. Lydia's breath caught. Around them, life continued. Laughter, trays clattering, someone calling for more bread. But her world narrowed to the man across from her, and the sentence that should have scared her. Instead, it felt like shelter. Before she could ask what he meant, her phone buzzed again. This time, the screen lit up with a subject line she recognized. Forwarded. Lydia Hale. Confidential. Her heart stuttered as she reached for it, and Caleb's hand closed gently over hers, stopping her just short of opening the message. The email opened itself in Lydia's mind before she ever touched the screen. She already knew what it would contain. Words sharpened into weapons, her name framed in suspicion, a tone meant to sound concerned while doing real damage. Still, Caleb's hand rested lightly over hers, warm and deliberate, stopping her from confirming the fear. "Not here," he said quietly. His thumb moved once. Barely there. A grounding pressure. The cafeteria noise crept back in around them, chairs scraping. A burst of laughter, someone complaining about the coffee machine again. Ordinary life, intruding at the worst possible moment. Lydia nodded. She slipped the phone back into her bag, her pulse still loud in her ears. "Thank you," she said, for the pause, for the shield. Caleb released her hand and stood. "Walk with me." They didn't talk in the elevator. The silence felt intentional, respectful. He wasn't filling the space with reassurance or promises he couldn't yet make. When the doors opened onto the executive floor, the quiet grew heavier, more watchful. His office overlooked the river, Light poured in through tall windows, turning the polished desk into a mirror of sky and movement. Power lived here, but not ostentation. Clean lines, order, control. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair opposite his desk. "Coffee?" "Yes," she answered, surprised by how much she wanted it. He poured it himself from a carafe, handed her the mug without ceremony. Black, strong. She wrapped her hands around it, grateful for something solid to hold. "Now," he said, taking his seat, "show me." Lydia opened the email. It was worse than she'd imagined. A forwarded message chain sent anonymously to multiple departments. Her name bolded. A paragraph suggesting an inappropriate relationship with a client. No proof, no images, just implication, the most efficient poison. She felt her face heat, but she kept her voice even as she handed him the phone. "I've never met the client they're referencing." Caleb read without expression. When he finished, he leaned back, fingers steepled. "They're careful," he said. "No direct accusation, enough doubt to stick." "Marianne," Lydia said softly. "Possibly," he replied, "or someone using her style." Lydia swallowed. "This could cost me my job." "It won't." The certainty in his voice startled her. Caleb leaned forward. "Listen to me. We'll address this formally. It is already pulling access logs. HR will be involved, public statement if needed, transparent, ethical." She searched his face. "Why are you doing this?" The question hung between them, fragile and dangerous. "Because it's right," he said after a moment. Then, quieter, "and because I don't protect things I don't value." Her breath caught before she could stop it. He noticed. Of course he did. Something flickered in his eyes, restraint tightening. "This year, you're mine," he added. Measured now, careful. "Meaning, you won't face this alone. Meaning, no one gets to dismantle your dignity for sport. Not on my watch." The words settled differently this time, less shocking, more profound. A knock interrupted them. Caleb's assistant peeked in, eyes darting briefly to Lydia before returning to him. "Sorry to interrupt. HR is asking if you've seen the email." And she hesitated. "The board wants a briefing this afternoon." Caleb nodded. "Tell HR I'll be there in 20 minutes. The board gets a written update by end of day." When the door closed, Lydia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "I didn't mean to drag you into this," he stood. "You didn't. Someone else did." He walked her back toward her department, stopping just before the glass doors. The open office buzzed beyond. Keyboards, murmurs, the quiet tension of people who'd seen the email and were pretending they hadn't. "This is important," Caleb said. "Until this is resolved, any interaction between us stays professional, visible, transparent," she nodded immediately. "Of course." "And Lydia," he added, lowering his voice, "if anyone treats you differently, if there's pressure, subtle or otherwise, you tell me." She hesitated, then reached into her bag. The silver locket slid into her palm. She hadn't meant to show it. It happened instinctively, a small confession without words. "My mother's," she said, embarrassed. "I carry it when things feel unstable." Caleb studied it with unexpected softness. She had good taste, he said, simple, enduring. Something loosened in her chest. At her desk, Lydia found a paper bag waiting, a small one. Inside, a croissant, still warm, and a note in neat handwriting. "Eat. You think better when you do." She smiled before she could stop herself. Across the room, whispers started and stopped as people noticed the bag, noticed Caleb's assistant leaving her desk moments earlier. Attention followed protection like a shadow. Halfway through the croissant, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a calendar invite. Meeting, HR review, mandatory attendance. Attendees, Lydia Hale, Marianne Culver, Caleb Ashford. Her stomach tightened, not with hunger this time, but with something sharper. As she stood to go, she caught sight of Marianne across the room, already watching her, lips curved in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The locket pressed cool against Lydia's skin, and for the first time she wondered, not if the truth would come out, but what it would cost when it did. HR chose the smaller conference room, the one with no windows. No view, no distractions. Just a long oval table, a box of tissues placed too neatly at the center, and a pitcher of water sweating onto a stack of coasters. Lydia arrived first. She sat with her back straight, hands folded on the table, the silver locket hidden beneath her blouse, but heavy against her skin. She reminded herself of her mother's voice, calm and firm. You don't rush the truth. You let it walk in on its own. The door opened. Marianne Culver swept in with practiced ease, tailored blazer flawless, expression concerned in a way that looked convincing from a distance. She offered Lydia a thin smile, then took the seat across from her, crossing her legs slowly, deliberately. "Hard morning," Marianne said softly. "I hope you're holding up." Lydia met her gaze. "I am." A beat passed. Not long, but long enough. Then Caleb entered. The temperature of the room shifted. It always did when he walked in, like order asserting itself. He didn't look at either woman right away, instead nodding to the HR director, already seated at the far end. Papers shuffled, a pen clicked. "Let's begin," the director said. "This meeting is to address a potentially damaging internal communication involving Ms. Hale." Marianne leaned forward slightly. "Before we start, I want to say how deeply unfortunate this situation is, for everyone involved." Caleb's eyes lifted to her. "Facts first," he said evenly. "Commentary later." The HR director cleared her throat and turned to Lydia. "Ms. Hale, have you reviewed the forwarded email?" "Yes," Lydia said. "I didn't write it, I didn't send it, and the implication it makes is false." Marianne sighed, as if burdened by empathy. "No one is saying otherwise, it's just that perception." Caleb raised a hand. Marianne stopped mid-sentence. "Yet," Caleb said, "has already traced the email's origin. It wasn't sent from Ms. Hale's account, nor from any device assigned to her." The room stilled. Marianne's smile faltered for half a second, before returning, tighter now. "Anonymous senders are clever. It could still be. It originated from an internal terminal," Caleb continued, "specifically one assigned to communications." Silence pressed in. The HR director looked down at her notes. "That narrows the field." Marianne's fingers tightened around her pen. "Communications has dozens of terminals." "Yes," Caleb said, "but only one was logged in after hours on Sunday night, with elevated access permissions." Marianne's gaze flicked to Lydia. "Too sharp now. Are you suggesting—" "I'm stating what the logs show," he replied. For the first time, Lydia saw something crack in Marianne's composure, not fear, calculation. "This feels rushed," Marianne said coolly. "We should be careful not to accuse without—" "There's more," Caleb said. He slid a printed page across the table. The HR director leaned in. Marianne didn't. "It appears," Caleb went on, "that the same terminal was used to access Ms. Hale's personnel file last week, and again last night." Lydia's heart pounded, but she didn't look away. Marianne laughed softly. "That proves nothing. My team reviews files all the time." Caleb leaned back, eyes steady. "Your team doesn't have permission to open sealed HR attachments." Another pause. He let it breathe. "They were opened," he finished, "using your credentials." The HR director looked up sharply. "Ms. Culver?" Marianne stood so suddenly her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "This is outrageous! You're turning a misunderstanding into a witch hunt." "No," Caleb said calmly. "We're correcting a wrong." Marianne's gaze snapped to Lydia, something cold and personal flashing there. "You think you're innocent in all this? Walking around with that quiet little act? People notice when favorites are chosen." Lydia's voice came out steady. "I never asked for any of this." Caleb rose as well, not threatening, grounded. "This meeting is adjourned. HR will proceed with formal review, Miss Culver. You're placed on administrative leave pending investigation." Marianne's face drained of color. You can't be serious. I am, Caleb said, and for the record, no favoritism exists here. Transparency will be documented and shared. The HR director nodded. Ms. Culver, please hand over your badge. The room felt smaller as Marianne complied, movement stiff, eyes burning. Before she left, she turned back once more. This isn't over, she said quietly. People don't forget. When the door closed, Lydia's legs threatened to give out. Caleb looked at her, not as a boss, not as a rescuer, but as someone checking if another human was still standing. You did well, he said. She exhaled shakily. I thought I was going to disappear. You didn't, he replied. You held your ground. Outside, the afternoon had softened. Sunlight spilled through the atrium, warming the marble floors. Lydia realized she was shaking. Not from fear now, but release. Caleb walked her to the cafe across the street. Not the office one. Neutral ground. Inside it smelled like baked bread and cinnamon. He ordered for them without asking. 2 teas, a small plate of sliced apple tart, meant for sharing. Tell me if that's not okay, he said. It's perfect, she answered. They sat by the window, steam rising from their cups. Lydia took a bite of the tart, sweetness cutting through the tension still lodged in her chest. She laughed softly, surprising herself. My mother used to say, apple desserts fix almost anything, she said. Caleb smiled, a real one this time. She sounds wise. Lydia touched the locket unconsciously. She was. The moment felt fragile, honest. Then Caleb's phone buzzed. He checked it. Expression tightening just slightly. The board wants to meet tomorrow morning about the investigation. Her stomach dipped. That's good, right? Yes, he said. Then, after a pause, but they'll ask questions about boundaries, about us. Her heart skipped. Us? He met her eyes. Protection draws attention. Outside, a passerby snapped a photo through the cafe window. Quick, careless. Lydia noticed too late. Caleb followed her gaze. The flash was already gone. And so was the sense of safety they'd just begun to build. The photo appeared online before Lydia finished her tea. She didn't see it herself at first. She was too busy listening to Caleb explain the board's procedures, too focused on the careful way he framed every sentence, as if words themselves could prevent harm. She noticed the shift only when the barista glanced at them twice, then a third time. Curiosity sharpening into recognition, Caleb noticed too. He reached for his wallet, calm as ever, and stood. We should go. Outside, the late afternoon had cooled. Wind moved along the street, tugging at Lydia's coat. As they walked, her phone vibrated once, then again. She didn't check it. They stopped at the crosswalk. Cars rushed past, indifferent. For a brief moment, Caleb's hand hovered near her elbow, not touching, just there, a question, waiting for permission. She nodded slightly. He guided her across. Someone took a picture, Lydia said once they reached the other side. It wasn't a question. Yes, he replied, it'll circulate. Her chest tightened. I didn't mean for... I know, he said, this isn't on you. They parted at the office entrance. Not dramatic, not lingering. Too many eyes now, too much awareness. Caleb waited until she was inside before turning away. At her desk, Lydia finally looked at her phone. There it was, a grainy photo, framed by the cafe window. Caleb leaning slightly forward, Lydia smiling mid-sentence, unguarded. The caption was already doing its work. Executive favoritism? Or something more? Her stomach dropped. Comments stacked beneath it, some curious, some cruel, some pretending to defend her while sharpening their knives. She closed the app, heart pounding. Across the room, conversation softened as she passed. Not silent, worse, careful, polite, the kind of politeness that built distance. By the time she reached her apartment that evening, exhaustion sat heavy in her bones. She kicked off her shoes, dropped her bag by the door, and leaned her forehead against the wall. Just get through tonight, she whispered. She changed into soft clothes and made herself a simple dinner. Toast, scrambled eggs, sliced avocado. Nothing fancy. Honest food. She ate standing at the counter, the way she used to when her mother was tired but still wanted them to sit together, even if it was only for 10 minutes. The locket lay on the counter beside her plate. She opened it, studying the faded photograph inside. 2 smiles. A life that had held joy without apology. Her phone buzzed. A message from Caleb. The board moved the meeting up. First thing tomorrow, I wanted you to hear it from me. She typed, erased, then typed again. Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry this is complicating things. The reply came almost immediately. It was already complicated. This just made it visible. She smiled faintly at that. Sleep didn't come easily. When it did, it was shallow, restless, full of half-formed worries. Morning arrived too soon. Lydia dressed carefully. Neutral colors, clean lines. She pinned her hair back, the locket tucked beneath her blouse, close to her heart. Armor that no one else could see. In the lobby, whispers followed her again, but she didn't lower her head. She'd practiced dignity too long to abandon it now. The boardroom sat at the top floor, larger than any meeting space she'd ever been in. Long table, floor-to-ceiling windows, a city laid out below like a chessboard. Caleb was already there. He looked composed, but when his eyes met hers, something shifted. Relief, maybe, or reassurance that she hadn't vanished overnight. "Good morning," he said, formal, measured. "Good morning," she answered, matching his tone. They didn't sit near each other. The board members filed in, a mix of sharp suits and sharper expressions. Questions came quickly, about the email, about the investigation, about Marianne. Caleb answered each with clarity and restraint. When the photo came up, the air tightened. "Public perception matters," one board member said, "even when no lines are crossed." "I agree," Caleb replied. "That's why transparency matters more." Another leaned forward. "Ms. Hale, do you feel you've been treated fairly?" Lydia felt the weight of the room settle on her shoulders. She thought of her mother's voice again. "You don't rush the truth." "Yes," she said, "I do." "And the attention?" the woman pressed. "The protection?" Lydia met her gaze. Protection isn't favoritism. It's leadership. A murmur moved through the room. Caleb's jaw tightened just slightly. Pride? Concern? Both? The board recessed briefly, leaving Lydia and Caleb alone at opposite ends of the table. Silence stretched. "You didn't have to say that," he said quietly. "I wanted to," she replied. "I won't survive this by shrinking." He studied her, something deep and unreadable passing through his eyes. "You're stronger than you think." When the board returned, their decision came wrapped in careful language. The investigation would proceed. Marianne's actions would be reviewed externally. A statement would be released, and until then... "Ms. Hale will be reassigned temporarily," the chair said, "to avoid further speculation." Lydia's breath caught. "Reassigned where?" The chair glanced at Caleb. "Directly under Mr. Ashford's oversight. Strategic projects only. Limited exposure." Caleb's gaze snapped to the board. "That's not—" "It's decided," the chair interrupted. "Effective immediately." Lydia felt the room tilt. After the meeting, they stood near the windows. The city far below. "This wasn't what I wanted," Caleb said. "I know," she replied, "but it's what happened." A pause. Heavy. Charged. He looked at her then, really looked at her, the restraint in his eyes battling something far more dangerous. "From here on," he said, voice low, "every step we take will be watched." She nodded. "Then we'll choose each one carefully." Before either could say more, Caleb's assistant hurried in, face pale. "Sir," she said, "you need to see this. Marianne just released a statement." Lydia's phone buzzed at the same moment. A new headline flashed across the screen. Communications head claims romantic involvement influenced investigation. Lydia's fingers tightened around the phone, and suddenly, Reassignment felt like the smallest of their problems. Marianne's statement spread faster than the truth ever had. By noon, it had been quoted, reframed, softened, sharpened, and finally distorted into something almost unrecognizable. Headlines disagreed with one another, yet all pointed in the same direction, toward Lydia, toward Caleb, toward the space between them that now felt dangerously visible. Lydia worked from a temporary office on the executive floor, smaller than Caleb's, with a narrow desk and a window that opened to the same river. The view felt like a borrowed privilege. She kept her posture careful, her movements economical, as if any extra gesture might be misread. At 10:30, Caleb appeared at her door. "Walk with me," he said quietly. They took the back corridor, away from glass walls and curious eyes. His stride was measured. Hers matched it instinctively. He stopped near a small break area, unused at this hour, and reached for the kettle. "Tea?" he asked. "Yes," she said, then added, attempting lightness, "if it's not another strategic maneuver." A corner of his mouth lifted. Purely tactical hydration. The joke was small, but it landed. She smiled, tension easing just enough to breathe. They sat at the round table, steam curling up between them. Caleb passed her a small plate, 2 oatmeal biscuits, slightly uneven, clearly not store-bought. "My sister insists on sending these," he said. "She claims they fix bad weeks." Lydia took one, breaking it in half. "I'm beginning to believe people who say food carries intention." "Then eat it," he replied. "She'd be offended otherwise." They shared the biscuits in quiet. It wasn't romantic. It was better. Human. "The board shouldn't have reassigned you like that," Caleb said finally. "It feeds the narrative." "It also keeps me employed," Lydia answered. "And visible." He looked at her sharply. "That's not a small thing." "No," she agreed, "it isn't." She reached up without thinking, fingers brushing the chain at her neck. The locket slipped into view, catching the light. Caleb's gaze followed it. "You've worn that every day this week," she nodded. "It reminds me who I am when the noise gets loud." "May I?" he asked. She hesitated, then unclasped it, placing it in his open palm. He didn't open it right away, just weighed it there, respectful. When he did, his expression softened. "This is what steadiness looks like," he said. Her throat tightened. "She taught me that dignity doesn't need permission." He closed the locket and handed it back. Their fingers brushed, brief and electric. A knock at the door startled them apart. Caleb's assistant leaned in. "Press is downstairs. They're asking for a comment." Caleb stood. "Tell them the statement goes out at 3. No deviations." When the door closed, Lydia exhaled. "I never wanted this kind of attention." "I know," he said, "and that's why it sticks." The afternoon dragged. Lydia focused on her reassigned project, strategic review, long-term planning, work she was good at, work that didn't ask her to perform. At 3 o'clock, the company statement went live. Clear, calm, firm, no mention of romance, emphasis on process, ethics, respect. The reaction was mixed. Some comments softened. Others dug in. By 5, Lydia's head ached. Caleb appeared again, coat on. "You should eat." She blinked. "I hadn't noticed the time." "That's my point." They didn't go far, just the small deli around the corner, the one with handwritten signs and a bell that rang too loudly when the door opened. The owner greeted Caleb by name, winked at Lydia. "New hire?" he asked. "Something like that," Lydia replied. They ordered grilled chicken wraps and lemonade, sat at a narrow table that wobbled slightly, forcing Caleb to steady it with his knee. "Occupational hazard," he muttered, deadpan. She laughed, really laughed, for the first time in days. They ate slowly, talked about nothing dangerous, favorite books, the river's changing color, his sister's stubborn baking habits, her mother's habit of singing while doing dishes, always off-key. "You miss her," Caleb said gently. Every day, Lydia answered, but some days feel carried. He nodded, understanding without probing. As they left, a young woman at the counter glanced up from her phone. Recognition flickered. Lydia stiffened. Caleb noticed. "It's all right," he said quietly. "You don't owe anyone a performance." Outside, dusk settled in soft layers. The city lights blinked on, one by one. At the corner, they stopped. "This is where I turn," Lydia said. "Yes," Caleb replied. A pause followed, full, waited. "I need to be clear," he said finally. "Whatever happens, I won't let this become a story where you lose." She held his gaze. "And I won't let it become a story where you're the villain." Something unspoken passed between them. Agreement, respect, want, held carefully in check. Her phone buzzed, a new notification. From unknown sender. "If you think Marianne acted alone, you're wrong." Attached, a screenshot. Lydia's breath caught as she recognized the header. It was an email, dated months ago, and Caleb Ashford's name sat unmistakably in the recipient line. She looked up at him, the city humming around them, the locket cool against her skin. "Caleb," she said quietly, "we need to talk." Caleb didn't ask to see the screenshot right away. That, more than anything, unsettled Lydia. They stood on the corner as traffic flowed past, headlights blurring into white and red streaks. The air had turned colder, sharp enough to clear the mind. Lydia's phone felt heavier than it should have, like it carried more than pixels and doubt. "Let's walk," Caleb said at last. "Not away from the city, into it." They moved without touching, a careful distance between them now, as if closeness itself had become evidence. Lydia showed him the screenshot as they walked. He slowed, reading it once, then again. It was an internal message from months earlier, vague, strategically worded. Marianne had written it, positioning Lydia as a potential risk to optics, and hinting that early intervention might be necessary. Caleb's response was brief, professional, non-committal, noted. "We'll handle any issues through proper channels." "That doesn't prove anything," Lydia said quickly, hating the tremor in her voice. "But it doesn't feel good either." "No," he agreed, "it doesn't." They stopped outside a small grocery on the corner, lights bright against the darkening street. Caleb pushed the door open. "Come in," he said. "We both need a moment that isn't watched." Inside, the store was nearly empty. An elderly man compared soup labels near the back. Soft music played overhead. Caleb headed straight for the prepared food section and picked up 2 bento-style boxes. Teriyaki chicken, rice, steamed vegetables. "Dinner," he said. "No ceremony." Lydia nodded, oddly grateful. They paid, then crossed the street to a small public park. Benches arranged beneath bare trees. Caleb spread a napkin across the bench between them, an unconscious gesture of care, and handed her one of the boxes. They ate quietly at first. The food was warm, comforting, in a way neither of them commented on. A couple walked past with a dog tugging eagerly at its leash. Somewhere nearby, someone laughed. "I should have told you," Caleb said finally. "About that email. It meant nothing to me, but I can see how it looks," Lydia finished. "Yes." He set his chopsticks down. "I never approved anything improper. I never encouraged what she did, and I didn't realize she'd fixated on you." "I believe you," Lydia said. The word surprised them both. He searched her face. "You shouldn't say that lightly." "I know," she replied, "but I'm tired of letting other people decide what I think." She touched the locket again, grounding herself. "My mother used to say, 'Trust isn't blind, it's chosen.'" Caleb absorbed that, nodded once. "Then I'll choose to earn it." They finished eating. When Lydia stood to throw away the boxes, her phone buzzed again. Another message. Same unknown sender. "You should ask him about the board vote last spring." Her heart sank. She didn't show him this one, not yet. They parted quietly that night. No promises, no reassurances that might crumble under scrutiny, just a shared understanding that something important had shifted. The next morning brought rain. Lydia arrived early, umbrella dripping by her desk. The office buzzed with restrained energy, phones ringing, voices lowered. Marianne's absence was felt everywhere, like a vacuum pulling stories into itself. At 10, Lydia was called into a smaller meeting room. 2 board members sat waiting. No Caleb. "We wanted to check in," one of them said, off the record. The phrase never meant what people pretended it did. They asked about her workload, her comfort level, whether she felt pressured. "I don't," Lydia said carefully, "but I do feel watched." The other board member nodded. "That won't change soon." "Then I'll keep doing my job," Lydia replied. "That's what I control." When she left the room, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a forwarded calendar invite. Old, marked private, board review, strategic personnel risk assessment. Her name sat on the list, dated before the scandal, before the email, before the photo. Lydia's pulse thundered. She found Caleb in his office, door half open. He looked up as she entered, concern flickering when he saw her face. "They were discussing me months ago," she said, holding out the phone, "before anything happened." He studied the invite, jaw tightening. "This wasn't supposed to be shared." "But it was," she replied, "and someone wants me to see it now." He leaned back, eyes distant. There was concern about departmental optics last spring. High level. It never went anywhere. "Because of you?" she asked quietly. He hesitated. The silence answered her. Lydia felt something inside her tilt, not breaking, but rebalancing. "So you protected me before," she said, "without telling me." "Yes," he said, "because I believed it was right, and because telling you would have put a target on your back." She nodded slowly. "You don't get to decide that alone." "I know," he said, "and I'm sorry." The apology mattered more than any defense. Before she could respond, Caleb's assistant appeared pale again. "Sir," she said, "Marianne's lawyer just contacted us. They're claiming retaliation, and," she swallowed, "they're requesting Lydia's full performance history." Lydia squared her shoulders. "They can have it." Caleb looked at her, pride and worry tangled together. "Are you sure?" "Yes," she said, "I won't hide." As the assistant left, Lydia's phone buzzed one last time. A final message from the unknown sender. "Meet me tonight if you want the whole truth. Come alone." Attached was an address. Lydia looked up at Caleb, rain streaking the windows behind him. "There's more," she said, "and someone wants me to hear it." His voice was low, controlled, protective. "Then we decide together what comes next." She hesitated, then nodded. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, and Lydia wondered whether the truth waiting for her would set her free, or cost her the one person who'd chosen to stand beside her. See, they didn't decide to meet together. They decided not to. Caleb insisted on waiting nearby, close enough to intervene, far enough to honor Lydia's choice. It was a compromise neither of them loved, which meant it was probably the right one. The address led Lydia to a narrow street lined with brick townhouses and a single corner cafe that stayed open late for shift workers and insomniacs. Rain slicked the pavement, turning streetlights into long reflections that followed her steps. She paused outside the cafe, steadying her breath. The locket rested warm against her chest. She pressed it once, a quiet ritual, then pushed the door open. Inside, the air smelled like toasted bread and coffee grounds. A few tables were occupied, 2 students hunched over laptops, a woman knitting with fierce concentration, a man asleep with his hat pulled low. Normal life. That helped. She ordered a grilled cheese and tomato chutney, plus chamomile tea. Comfort, not courage, she reminded herself. She took the food to a small table near the back. A minute later, a woman slid into the opposite chair. She was younger than Lydia expected, late 20s maybe. Hair pulled into a low ponytail, no makeup, eyes alert and tired in equal measure. "You came?" the woman said. "I said I would," Lydia replied. "You said you had the whole truth." The woman nodded. "I'm Aaron. I used to work in communications." Lydia's fingers tightened around her mug. "Used to?" "I resigned last month," Aaron said, quietly, before this exploded. "Why contact me now?" Aaron glanced around, then leaned in. "Because Marianne didn't act alone, and because I'm tired of watching men take the fall for women who know how to weaponize sympathy." Lydia blinked. "Men?" "Caleb," Aaron said plainly. "And you, in a different way." Lydia's heart stumbled. "Be careful." "I am," Aaron said. "That's why I asked you here." She slid her phone across the table. On it, a series of messages. Not emails this time, chats. Names redacted except one, Marianne. "She coached me," Aaron said, "on how to phrase concerns, how to frame optics. She said leadership listens more closely when fear sounds reasonable." Lydia scrolled slowly. Each message felt heavier than the last. "And Caleb?" Lydia asked. Aaron shook her head. He shut her down more than once. She hated that, said he was too principled for his own good. A humorless smile tugged at Lydia's mouth. "But that sounds like him." Aaron hesitated. "There's more." She pulled out a folded paper, a printed agenda. Old, familiar, strategic personnel risk assessment. "My name was on that list too," Aaron said. "Marianne's idea. She wanted leverage, people she could move around if needed." Lydia felt a chill. "Why tell me this now?" "Because the board's about to decide how to end this," Aaron said, "and they'll choose the cleanest story." "Which is?" "The powerful man overstepped. The vulnerable woman benefited. Everyone apologizes." He steps aside. Lydia's pulse roared in her ears. "That's not what happened," she said. "I know," Aaron replied, "but it's the story that protects the institution." Lydia looked down at her grilled cheese, now cooling, the steam gone. She took a bite anyway. It tasted grounding, real. "What do you want from me?" Lydia asked. Aaron met her gaze. "To submit this, officially, with your name." "It carries more weight." "And you?" "I'll back it," Aaron said. "Quietly, if needed." Lydia leaned back, absorbing the risk. The cafe's bell chimed as someone left. A laugh bubbled from the students up front when one of them spilled sugar everywhere. Life, again, intruding. "I won't do this to save myself alone," Lydia said slowly. "If I submit this, it's to tell the truth, all of it." Aaron nodded. "That's why I chose you." Outside, a car passed. Lydia knew Caleb was out there somewhere, watching the door without making it obvious. The thought steadied her. She slid the phone and papers back across the table. "Send me copies." "I'll decide tonight." Aaron stood. "Thank you. And Lydia—" She paused. "You didn't imagine his protection. He chose it." "I know," Lydia said quietly. When Aaron left, Lydia finished her tea and half the sandwich. She wrapped the rest to go, habit from another life, and tucked it into her bag. Outside, the rain had slowed to a mist. Caleb stepped out from beneath a street light, as if summoned by her relief. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," she said. And "No." They walked a block in silence before she spoke again. "She has proof, real proof." His shoulders eased just slightly. "Good. But the board may still choose a story," Lydia continued. "One that costs you." He stopped walking. "Lydia." "I won't let them," she said, voice steady. "Not by hiding, not by shrinking." He studied her, something like awe crossing his face. "You're choosing the hard road. I'm choosing the honest one." They shared the wrapped sandwich on a bench, no ceremony. Tearing it in half, laughing softly when the paper ripped unevenly. "I think your sister would approve," Lydia said. "She would," Caleb replied. "She likes people who don't run." His phone buzzed. He checked it once, then again. The color drained from his face. "What is it?" Lydia asked. "The board moved the vote," he said. "Tomorrow morning, early." Lydia's breath caught. Then we don't have much time." "No," he agreed, and Marianne just filed an injunction to block new submissions. The city hummed around them, indifferent. Lydia closed her eyes for a beat, then opened them with decision sharpening her gaze. "Then we tell the truth tonight," she said. "Before anyone can stop it," Caleb nodded, resolute. "Together." As they stood, Lydia felt the locket shift against her skin, warm and sure. Across the street, a figure stepped back into shadow, phone raised, recording. And Lydia realized the truth was ready, but so was the storm. They didn't go back to the office. Instead, Caleb drove them across the river to a quieter part of the city, where the lights softened and the streets remembered how to breathe. He parked near a small 24-hour bakery, the kind that survived on regulars and good intentions. "We'll think better with sugar," he said, almost apologetic. Inside, the air smelled of butter and vanilla. A radio hummed behind the counter. The baker, an older woman with flour on her sleeves, recognized Caleb and raised an eyebrow. "Rough night?" she asked. "Long one," he replied. They ordered 2 slices of lemon loaf and a pair of cappuccinos, foam-dusted with cocoa. Lydia watched the steam rise, as if it might carry away the weight pressing on her chest. They took a corner table. The bakery window reflected them faintly, 2 figures leaning toward something unfinished. Caleb opened his laptop. Lydia set Aaron's files beside it, careful, deliberate. The locket slipped free again, resting against the tabletop. She didn't pull it back this time. "Before we do this," Caleb said, "you need to know what it means." "I do," Lydia answered. "It means we don't let them simplify us." He nodded. "Once it's submitted, the board can't ignore it, but they can react." "Let them," she said softly. "I won't be reduced to a headline." They worked side by side, not touching, not distant. The rhythm of cooperation settled between them. Files reviewed, messages cross-checked, timelines aligned. Each small confirmation felt like a stitch, pulling something torn back together. Halfway through, Caleb paused. "This part," he said, pointing to a message thread, "shows intent. It proves pattern." Lydia leaned in, close enough to feel the warmth of his shoulder without brushing it. "And this," she said, tapping another page, "shows resistance. Yours." Their eyes met. The moment lingered, dangerous and grounding all at once. Outside, rain began again, light, insistent. They finished just before midnight. Caleb uploaded the packet to a secure external channel, legal oversight, ethics review, third-party audit. He hovered over the final button. "Once this goes," he said, "I can't shield you from the fallout." Lydia picked up the locket. Turning it once in her fingers, she opened it, glanced at the faded smiles inside, then closed it with a soft click. "I don't need shielding," she said. "I need truth." He hit send. For a second, nothing happened. The bakery radio played an old love song, tinny and sweet. The baker refilled the sugar jars. Life went on. Then Caleb's phone buzzed. Once, twice, then Lydia's. Alerts stacked, emails, missed calls, a notification from an internal board channel she shouldn't have access to, but did. Emergency session convened. Caleb exhaled slowly. "They're moving." "So are we," Lydia replied. They left the bakery with 2 wrapped slices to go. Habit again. Comfort again. In the car, Caleb drove with steady hands, eyes forward. Lydia watched the city blur past, every streetlight a small witness. At her building, he walked her to the door. The rain had soaked his coat, darkening the wool. He didn't seem to notice. "Whatever happens tomorrow," he said. "Low and careful, I want you to hear this clearly." She waited. "I didn't choose you because you were vulnerable," he continued. "I chose to protect what was right. And somewhere along the way," he stopped, restraint tightening, "I chose you." Her heart thudded. "Caleb!" "Not now," he said gently. "Oh." "Not when the ground is still moving," she nodded, grateful and aching all at once. "Tomorrow," she said, "after the truth lands." He smiled, faint but real. Tomorrow. Inside her apartment, Lydia changed into soft clothes and reheated a small portion of rice and vegetables she'd cooked days earlier. She ate slowly, sitting at the table this time, respecting the moment, respecting herself. Her phone buzzed again. A new message. Unknown sender. "You made it public." That was a mistake. She didn't reply. Another followed seconds later. People who expose systems don't get fairy tales. Lydia placed the phone face down. She opened the locket once more, then set it beside her plate like a quiet ally. She slept, finally, deeply, dreamlessly. Morning arrived sharp and bright. The boardroom was full when Lydia entered. Caleb stood near the windows, expression unreadable. He looked at her once, steady, anchoring, then returned his gaze to the city. The chair cleared his throat. "We've reviewed the submission." Silence stretched. "It raises serious concerns," the chair continued, "about conduct, about culture, about accountability." Lydia's pulse hammered. Marianne wasn't present. Her chair sat empty, conspicuous. "We'll hear from all parties," the chair said, "including external testimony." The door opened. Aaron stepped in. Lydia felt a rush of gratitude and fear. Aaron spoke calmly, clearly. She laid out the pattern, the pressure, the coaching. She didn't dramatize. She didn't flinch. When she finished, the room held its breath. The chair turned to Lydia. "Ms. Hale, do you have anything to add?" Lydia stood. She didn't rush. She didn't perform. "I won't defend myself against things I didn't do," she said, "but I will stand by the truth. Dignity isn't something you earn by silence." Murmurs rippled. The chair nodded slowly. "Thank you." Then he turned to Caleb. "Mr. Ashford," he said, "given your involvement, the board must consider whether your judgment was compromised." The words landed heavy. Caleb straightened. "My judgment was guided by ethics. If that's a liability, say so." A pause. The chair exchanged looks with the others. "We will recess for deliberation." As the board filed out, Lydia's phone buzzed one last time. A message, this time from a known number. "Marianne, you think this ends well for you? Check the press." Lydia opened the news feed. A new headline dominated the screen. Sources say CEO may step down amid internal scandal. Her breath caught. Across the room, Caleb's phone chimed too. He looked at Lydia, the space between them suddenly vast and fragile. And for the first time, the cost of truth stood fully revealed. The word "step down" echoed in Lydia's head long after the screen went dark. Caleb didn't look at his phone again. He slipped it into his jacket pocket with deliberate calm. The kind that came from long practice, not indifference. Around them, the boardroom felt suspended in time. Chairs slightly askew, water glasses half full, the city still spread beneath the windows as if nothing extraordinary were happening. "This is how they test resolve," Caleb said quietly. "They float consequences before decisions." Lydia nodded, though her chest felt tight. "They're not testing mine." He turned to her then, eyes steady. "No, they're testing whether I'll make it easy." The board took longer than expected. Minutes stretched into an hour. Someone brought in a tray of pastries and a carafe of coffee, untouched at first, then slowly diminished as nerves demanded something to do. Lydia poured herself coffee, added milk with a careful hand. She took a small almond pastry and broke it in half, offering the other piece to Caleb without looking at him. He accepted it, a faint smile touching his mouth. "Thank you." They ate standing by the window, sharing the silence. The pastry was sweet, grounding. Another small anchor in a room full of shifting power. When the board finally returned, the chair didn't sit right away. He stood, hands resting on the back of his chair. "We've reached a decision," he said. Lydia felt the locket press warm against her skin, as if urging her to stand taller. She did. The investigation confirms that Ms. Culver acted independently and unethically, the chair continued. Her employment is terminated, effective immediately. Legal action will proceed. Relief moved through the room like a held breath released. Regarding Mr. Ashford, the chair went on. The board acknowledges that his actions remained within ethical bounds. However, Lydia's heart lurched. Public trust has been shaken, the chair finished. We believe leadership must address perception as well as fact. Caleb nodded once. Say it plainly. The chair met his gaze. We're requesting that you take a temporary leave of absence while an external review concludes. 30 days. A murmur rippled. Lydia stepped forward before she could stop herself. That's punishment dressed as caution. The chair's eyes softened just a little. It's protection of the institution. Caleb lifted a hand, gentle but firm, stopping her. I'll comply, he said, on one condition. The room stilled. That Ms. Hale's reassignment ends today, he continued. She returns to her role, publicly, with a clear statement correcting the narrative. The chair exchanged looks with the others, a quiet conference of nods and frowns. Agreed, the chair said at last. Something in Lydia's chest loosened and tightened at the same time. The meeting ended without ceremony. People filed out, voices low. Aaron caught Lydia's eye at the door and gave a small nod. Solidarity. Courage recognized. In the corridor away from ears and glass, Lydia stopped Caleb. You shouldn't have offered that, she said. 30 days, your reputation, isn't worth more than yours, he replied. And it's not 30 days away. It's 30 days to decide what comes next. She searched his face. And what if the review isn't kind? Then I'll have told the truth when it mattered, he said. I can live with that. They left the building together, not side by side, but not apart either. Outside, the day had softened into late afternoon. Sunlight caught in puddles, turning the street into scattered mirrors. They walked until they reached a small, family-owned restaurant tucked between a bookstore and a florist. Nothing fancy. Curtains in the windows. A chalkboard menu that changed daily. I owe you lunch, Lydia said. You owe me nothing, Caleb replied. Then consider it a thank you I'm choosing to give. Inside, the restaurant smelled of roasted chicken and herbs. A server led them to a corner table, offering water and a basket of warm bread. Lydia tore a piece and passed it to Caleb. My mother used to say, bread shared is a promise. He raised an eyebrow. She had many good sayings. They ordered simply, grilled fish, vegetables, iced tea. The normalcy felt almost surreal. I don't know what happens after 30 days, Lydia said quietly. Caleb met her gaze. Neither do I. She reached for the locket, then stopped herself. Instead, she slid it across the table, placing it between them. This is what I carry when I don't know, she said. I wanted you to see it here, not in crisis. He touched it, reverent. I won't mistake what it means. They ate slowly, conversation drifting to gentler ground, books again, travel they'd postponed, the strange comfort of routine after upheaval. When they stood to leave, the server smiled. You two look like you've had a long day. We have, Lydia said. Come back when it's shorter, the woman replied. Outside, Caleb stopped beneath the awning. I'll keep distance during the leave, he said. Publicly, privately, he paused. I don't want to disappear. Don't, Lydia said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. Just be honest with me. I always will, he replied. He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and placed something in her hand, a small key on a plain ring. My sister's place, he said. Near the river, if the noise gets loud. Her throat tightened. Thank you. They didn't embrace. They didn't kiss. They stood close enough for the possibility to hum between them, unclaimed and very much alive. As he turned away, Lydia's phone buzzed, a notification from the company feed. Breaking, Former communications head releases additional statement. Her heart sank. She opened it. Marianne's face filled the screen, composed, defiant. "I will not be the scapegoat for a system that protects its own," the caption read. More details to come. Lydia looked up, searching the street for Caleb, but he'd already disappeared into the crowd. She closed her eyes, fingers curling around the key and the locket together. The truth had won a battle, but the war wasn't finished, and the next move would test not just their courage, but their commitment. Marianne's second statement didn't explode, it seeped. By morning it had threaded itself through opinion pieces, talk shows, quiet phone calls between board members who pretended not to be worried. The language was careful, almost elegant. No direct lies, just implication, just enough uncertainty to keep doubt breathing. Lydia read it once. Then she closed her laptop. She'd learned something important over the last weeks. Not every accusation deserved her eyes. Her reassignment ended that day, exactly as promised. She returned to her original floor to polite smiles and cautious greetings. Some people looked relieved, others avoided her altogether. Both reactions told her the same thing. She was no longer invisible. At noon, she ate lunch at her desk. A quinoa salad with roasted vegetables she'd brought from home. Lemon still bright against the heaviness in her chest. She ate slowly, deliberately, reminding herself that she was still here, still standing. The locket rested against her collarbone, warm from her skin. She touched it once before opening the next file. Mid-afternoon, a message arrived from Aaron. "Marianne's lawyer is shopping for allies. They're testing who's nervous," Lydia typed back. "Let them test. I won't chase rumors." A pause. Then Aaron replied, "That's why this matters." At 5, Lydia packed up and left, without looking over her shoulder. Outside, the city felt louder than usual, as if aware of the tension threading through it. She didn't go home. She took the train instead, riding it to the river, to the quiet street where Caleb's sister kept a small apartment with mismatched furniture and a view that caught the sunset just right. The key felt cool and reassuring in her palm. Inside, the place smelled faintly of rosemary and clean linen. Lydia opened the windows, letting evening air wash through. She changed into comfortable clothes and made herself a simple dinner: pasta with olive oil, garlic, and wilted greens. Nothing dramatic, something sustaining. She ate at the small table by the window, watching boats move slowly along the river. When she finished, she washed the plate immediately, the way her mother used to insist upon. Leave nothing heavy for the morning. Her phone buzzed. "Caleb, may I come by?" Her breath caught. She didn't answer right away. She touched the locket, thought of the day, of the weeks that had reshaped her. Then she typed, "Yes." He arrived just after 8, coat slung over his arm, face drawn but steady. He looked around the apartment, taking it in. "She'll be pleased you're here," he said. "She believes spaces hold better energy when they're used." "It already does," Lydia replied. They sat on opposite ends of the small couch at first. Distance out of habit, out of caution. "I spoke with legal today," Caleb said. "Marianne's latest move didn't land the way she hoped." "That's good," Lydia said, "but it isn't over." "No," he agreed, "and I won't pretend the leave is easy." She studied him. The man who moved with authority now sat with his hands loosely clasped. Shoulders carrying weight he didn't show in public. "Does it feel like exile?" she asked gently. "Sometimes," he admitted. "Mostly it feels like clarity." She nodded. "Clarity can be lonely." They shared a quiet smile at that. Lydia stood and returned with 2 mugs of hot chocolate, the simple kind made with milk and cocoa, lightly sweetened. She handed one to him. "My mother believed hot chocolate fixed days that tea couldn't," she said. Caleb took a sip and closed his eyes briefly. She might be right. They shifted closer, not touching yet, but no longer careful to avoid it. "I need to say something," Caleb said after a moment. Without titles, without timing. She waited. I don't want a version of this where we keep stepping around each other forever, he continued. I don't want secrecy dressed as professionalism. And I don't want you choosing distance to protect me. Her pulse quickened. And I don't want to be someone's risk, she said softly. Or their redemption story. He met her eyes. I want you to be my choice. The words settled between them, solid and deliberate. Lydia reached into her blouse and drew out the locket. She placed it in his open hand again, the same way she had before. But this time, she didn't look away. This belonged to my mother, she said. She believed love should add weight to your life, not take it away. If this, she gestured between them, is real, it has to stand in the open. It will, he said without hesitation. She studied his face, searching for doubt, finding none. Then I choose you too, she said. He didn't move right away. He breathed, as if honoring the moment. Then he reached out, resting his forehead lightly against hers. No rush, no spectacle, just presence. They stayed like that, the river murmuring beyond the window, the city distant and irrelevant. Caleb pulled back slightly. There's one more thing, he said. The board called an emergency session tomorrow. Her stomach tightened. About you? About everything, he replied, including how this ends. She straightened. Do they know about us? They suspect, he said, which is why I asked them to hear it from me. Her breath caught. You told them? Not yet, he said. I asked for the floor. Silence pressed in. And tomorrow, he continued, I intend to stand there and say this plainly, that I protected what was right, that I choose transparency, and that I intend to step back only if the cost of staying is your dignity. Lydia's heart thundered. Caleb, I won't let them decide for us, he said. But I won't ask you to stand in front of them unless you want to. She looked at the locket, thought of her mother's voice, of bread shared, of truth spoken at the hardest moment. She lifted her chin. I won't hide. He smiled, something fierce and tender all at once. Outside, thunder rolled again. Distant, but unmistakable. Lydia's phone buzzed on the table, a message from Aaron. Marianne just leaked something big. It drops at dawn. Lydia looked up at Caleb, her fingers curling around the locket as if it were a promise and a shield. Whatever waited for them in the morning, they would face it in the open. Together. The leak dropped at 6:02 a.m. Not dramatic, not explosive, just precise. Screens across the company, and then far beyond it, filled with documents, timelines, and one unavoidable conclusion. Marianne's pattern hadn't been impulsive. It had been strategic, calculated, sustained. The story she'd promised the night before collapsed under its own weight before breakfast. Lydia read the coverage once, standing by the river-facing window as the sky lightened. She didn't scroll. She didn't hunt reactions. She closed the laptop and rested her palm over the locket. For the first time since the year began, her chest felt quiet. Caleb arrived just after 7. He looked tired, but lighter, as if something had already loosened inside him. They saw it, he said. All of it, she nodded. Then, it's time. The boardroom felt different that morning, still imposing, still polished. But the tension had shifted. This wasn't about control anymore, it was about consequence. Caleb spoke first. He didn't defend himself, he didn't dramatize. He told the truth the way one lays down a fact and steps back from it. I protected an employee because it was right, he said. I resisted manipulation because it threatened the culture we claim to uphold. And yes, he paused just once, in the midst of all this, I chose a relationship grounded in respect, transparency, and intent. Murmurs stirred, not shock, recognition. I won't lead in a way that asks someone else to carry my cost, he continued. So if my position depends on silence or sacrifice, then I'll step aside. Lydia stood. She hadn't planned to speak long. She didn't need to. I won't accept protection that requires my erasure, she said, and I won't apologize for dignity, not mine, not anyone's. The room held still. The chair folded his hands. You've both made something very clear. He looked at the others, then back at them. This company doesn't need fewer principled people. It needs more. Mr. Ashford, your leave is concluded, effective immediately. A breath Lydia didn't know she'd been holding finally left her. And regarding your relationship, the chair added, it will proceed transparently with oversight, not because it's suspect, but because it deserves integrity. The meeting ended without applause. Without speeches, just truth, acknowledged. Outside, the city felt almost kind. They didn't go back to work. They walked instead, along the river, past joggers and parents and people living ordinary lives untouched by boardrooms and headlines. They stopped at a small cafe near the water, the kind with chipped mugs and too much sunlight. Caleb ordered for them this time, 2 coffees and a shared slice of banana bread. Celebratory? Lydia asked. Grounding, he replied. They sat close, knees brushing under the table. No one stared, no one whispered. The world had moved on. I spent years choosing carefully, Caleb said quietly. Never once choosing for myself, she smiled. And now? Now I'm choosing you, he said. Publicly, privately, for the long road. Her eyes warmed. She reached into her bag and pulled out the locket. I carried this through everything, she said. Fear, shame, hope. I don't want to carry it alone anymore. She opened it and removed the small photo inside. Then, carefully, she replaced it with a new one. A simple print she'd tucked away weeks earlier. A candid shot Aaron had taken at the bakery that night. 2 figures leaning toward truth. She closed the locket and placed it around Caleb's neck. He swallowed. That's not small. No, she said, it's intentional. He reached for her hand. This time without hesitation, without fear of witnesses. I don't need a perfect year, he said. I need a chosen life. She squeezed his fingers. Then we'll build one. 3 months later, the river looked different. Spring had softened its edges. The trees along the path wore new green. People gathered for reasons unrelated to scandal or survival. Lydia stood beneath a simple arch of flowers, sunlight threading through her hair. She wore a dress that felt like herself, elegant, unforced, real. Caleb waited at the end of the aisle, calm as ever, except his eyes. When she reached him, he took her hands and whispered, "Still choosing me?" "Every day," she replied. The ceremony was small, honest, full of laughter at the right moments and tears no one tried to hide. When Caleb slipped the ring onto her finger, he touched the locket resting against his own chest and said, clearly enough for everyone to hear, "She carried dignity through fire. I choose her in the light." And Lydia, smiling through tears, answered, "He stood when it was easier to step back. I choose him without fear." They kissed, not for spectacle, but for certainty. That evening, as the sun folded into the river and guests drifted away, Lydia stood beside Caleb, quiet and content. She'd started the year broken. No plans, no strength, just endurance. She ended it chosen, not owned, not saved, chosen. And maybe that's the real fairy tale, not the absence of pain, but the presence of dignity, the courage to stand, the certainty to love. So now let me ask you, what would you choose if the truth finally stood beside you? If this story moved you, touched you, or felt familiar in any way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell me honestly, how would you rate this story from 0 to 10? Thank you for being here. See you in the next story.